Hello, everyone, and welcome back for a new episode of Coding Design System with George. Hey, George, how are you?
Hello, man. How are you?
I'm well. I'm better than last week. So today is a new day for this new episode. We've got a wonderful guest on stage with us because we've got Zach Leatherman, the creator and maintainer of Eleventy, with us. Hey, Zach, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks
Great.
for having me.
Oh, it's a real pleasure, because for me at least, I'm a big fan of static site generators and what we could do with static sites. So yeah, tools like Eleventy are definitely my preferred graal. When I'm trying to build a new project and craft new things and so on. So yeah, it was a revolution for me a few years ago when I started to work and to craft things with Eleventy. So it's a real pleasure to have you today to talk on stage. Thank you for being there.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
really awesome to hear. Thanks for saying that.
And actually, our two of our landings are made in Eleventy, webcomponents.dev and Component Studio.
Yeah.
So, and that's been the case for a long time.
Yeah, it's sort of interesting the space that Eleventy occupied for a very long time. We didn't really have any like bundler story out of the gate. We sort of took like a more hands-off approach when it came to like more asset management stuff, and that really sort of helped us in the web component world. I feel like because a lot of folks that are interested in web components there's a lot of overlap between that sort of mindset and what
Yeah, it's
11D
true.
provides too. So yeah, that's great to hear.
Yeah, it's so. I was about to say bare metal. It's not bare metal, but it's so close to the output that you want to reach that it fits well with web components, where you can exactly do what you want to do and no magic involved. So that is quite nice. And yeah, and actually you just reach V1.
Yeah, we did.
Milestone.
Yeah, not too long ago. Yeah, it was very exciting to get our V1 release out. It's been years in the making. Just a lot of work from a lot of different folks coming together. So it does really give some legitimacy to the project to have just that V1 release out in the wild. And so, yeah, it's great to hear that folks have been trying it out and the upgrade hasn't been too rough for them. So that's good to hear.
Yes.
You created the project something like 4 years ago, something like that, I guess.
Yeah, I think it was 2017. So yeah, about a little over 4 years. We're in our 5th year, I think now. So yeah, it's yep, been a while.
yeah, for sure.
And I can imagine. I mean, I can imagine why you created it, but I would love to hear the backstory. Why? What drove you to create Eleventy and those 11 templates? I think that there's a lot of questions around the decisions here.
Yeah, so I think the original impetus for Eleventy was really I wanted a tool that I could use to build my own websites, and so I love building websites. That's just something I enjoy doing, even in my spare time. So it's nice to be paid for it professionally, and also have it as a hobby. So I mean, yeah, it was really to scratch my own itch originally, and the reason that I made it template language agnostic, if you will, like it supports multiple template languages right out of the box, is that I wanted to be able to use it at work. And I thought the best way to do that was not to take a very opinionated approach with what template language needed to be used, because at that time I was working at an agency. And so use cases and requirements change very quickly at times when you're doing agency work, and you need to be able to satisfy a very large number of use cases. So that was just a way that I would convince my coworkers to buy in on Eleventy at that point and be able to use it in client projects.
And the creation of a new project versus using what was existing at the time. I think you probably thought about Hugo and Jekyll's. I think those were the two bigs at that time, right?
Yeah, I was a real big Jekyll user for many, many years. My personal site ran on Jekyll for a very long time. And I kind of am a JavaScript developer, and this has kind of satisfied an itch for a lot of JavaScript developers. I think they want something very similar to Jekyll, and we take a lot of architectural ideas from Jekyll specifically and
Yeah.
brought those to the JavaScript world. Um, and I think that's something folks were looking for because even when compared to Hugo, we get a lot of folks that tried out Hugo, and Hugo's awesome. It's super fast. I would say it's just on the whole, it's probably faster than Eleventy. It's hard to make that comparison, but I would say Hugo is speedier than Eleventy. But a lot of folks like the UX and the developer experience of working in JavaScript in their whole stack. So
Yeah.
um,
I think
yeah.
that's also what appealed to me, and the fact that you can stay in your language of comfort and also reuse a lot of the stuff that you have and just plug it in. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, there's really something about buying into the ecosystem of JavaScript and the benefits that you get from having access to all of these tools that exist in the
Yes.
JavaScript ecosystem is just so huge. And yeah, it's great to be able to tap into that.
Yeah, it's amazing. And on the side note, it's quite it's quite frightening, or at least it's quite amazing to see that actually this ecosystem of JavaScript tooling is actually shifting to like Go and Rust in a pretty fast way.
Yeah, and I think that a lot of those tools will probably end up being more low level and not
Yeah.
necessarily things that will be used or exposed directly to a lot of folks that are already working in the JavaScript ecosystem. Like I think Vite is another good example of that. You see, it's using ES build under the hood, which is not a native JavaScript tool.
At all.
But it's sort of exposing these tools to the JavaScript world and sort of wrapping them with JavaScript hooks so that most folks don't even know they're using a Rust tool behind the scenes.
It's interesting because something that was really exciting with the the arrival of Node.js was that we were able, as JavaScript developers, to use the same language to develop our very own tools, the same ones that we relied on specific teams to help us in our day-to-day, in our dev tools. And after spending a lot of time trying to make those tools working with JavaScript and so on, we finally find that moving to something maybe more fitted to what we need when you need to develop web dev tools is not that the same thing that we are using day to day to develop our website and so on. But I am really wondering if it will change something in terms of contributions, in terms of open source communities, how people will be able to contribute to tools developed with Rust or Go and whatever when you finally doing JavaScript and be more comfortable with JavaScript. I don't know really about this one.
Yeah, I think that it will limit the open source contributions that you can get depending on how much of your tool you want to convert over to Rust or Go or whatever these other languages might be. So you do want to use them and have as fast of a tool as you can deliver, but I think you're right that it will limit open source contributions for sure.
Yeah, especially Rust. I have the feeling that it's in another league of complexity.
Yeah, but on another hand, Rust is probably the best language that you could use right now if you want to develop for WebAssembly, which is definitely the future of the web. So, or one of the futures of the web. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe sometimes front end developers will be at least well fluent in both JavaScript and Rust or whatever. So nah, that's fun to see that. And about the Eleventy community, how did the community really started at first? Because you started the project on your own side, but the community is just amazing right now. It's a very huge community and really vibrant. So yeah, how did it start?
Yeah, I think that's a very good question that I don't really know. I don't really have a good answer for. I think that the reason that folks are attracted to Eleventy is that it doesn't get in your way and it doesn't over optimize things and it doesn't try to take over your project. It tries to serve your needs. And I think a lot of folks are very interested in making things where they have full control of the output. And so I think in some respects, it's just word of mouth, right? Like folks make sites that other folks like, and they ask, what was the site built with? And yeah, people are happy to share the tools that they use. And it's been really great to see just the community of people that are sharing plugins and sites that they built, and just the ecosystem around it has been just incredible to witness, to be honest, a little bit humbling
Yes.
in a way, because it's almost hard to keep up with just how big the community is.
With starter kits and all those projects. No,
Yeah,
it's fantastic.
it's sort of
And
interesting that when you expose ways of building with a tool to other people, how much people really want to share what they build and help other folks to build better sites. Um, and yeah, I think it's just a great community of teachers and learners.
but also don't be humble or be humble, and I will say it is you are a lovely person. Also, I think people love you, and just if we put your Twitter link in the description of the video, your sense of humor is just on the top. I just crack myself at every joke. It's so I don't know how you say in English, but it's a sense of humor. I don't know how you describe your sense of humor, but it's a little bit off, right? Is it? I don't know how to describe it in English, but
I agree with you that my sense of humor is probably not traditional. But yeah, I like to have fun. I mean, if we're not having fun, then what's the point?
No, but so I'm not gonna say that your sense of humor is what makes Eleventy a great success in the community, but we can feel via your communication in everything that you do, that there is just a good person behind the project, and I think they want to be part of that as well automatically. So I think that plays out. Your personality plays out here very well.
That's great to hear. I'm not very good at taking compliments, but I will accept that.
Take it; it's free, and I believe it's honestly. So.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
So let's talk a bit about the upcoming future of Eleventy. I'm saying that you are working on the V2, I guess. And what do you have in your sleeve for this one? What are we expecting for this new version?
Yeah, with V2, I mean, so the V1 version was years in the making. Like as I mentioned, it was probably 2 or 3 years of work that went into that release. And because that large scope of work goes into a major release, that can be very risky when you do a very large release, right? Because it can be more breaking changes and it's just riskier for folks to upgrade. So moving forward, there will be a much faster major release cadence, if you will. So I think that you will start to see more and more major releases coming from Eleventy. Not necessarily that we'll be shipping like very breaking changes that will require a lot of maintenance from folks, but we do want to ship new features that upgrade things in a nice way. So with version 2 specifically, I've been working on just the development server experience. So we're kind of stripping out the browser sync dependency by default and shipping our own sort of stripped down, much smaller development server with hot reload built in and all the niceties that you would expect from a normal development server experience. And the reason that we did that is it just makes the install process much faster. It gives us full control over our auditing NPM warnings that come back. So if we need to upgrade a dependency internally to the dev server, we can just do that and ship a release. So yeah, that's kind of the big thing that's going to come for V2 is the new development server.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
And is there any relationship with the Vite plugin that you've been announcing recently?
Yeah, so as part of the development server work, and I don't know if this is just like a failing in my own brain, but I decided to abstract the entire server API in Eleventy so that anyone could add their own development server if they wanted to do that.
Okay.
And I don't imagine that a lot of folks will do this, but I think it just goes back to Eleventy's extensibility. Like I want everything inside of Eleventy to be available for folks to modify if they want to do that. And so we will have a new development server, as I mentioned. We'll have a browser sync plugin. So if you want to use the old development server, you can continue to use that moving forward. And then I also just released, I think last week, a Vite plugin. So you can use the Vite server with Eleventy. And the reason that you want to use the Vite server with Eleventy is that the Vite server does runtime optimization of assets inside of the Vite build itself. So
Specifically for JavaScript
yeah,
assets?
exactly. Yep, it will bundle your JavaScript and bundle your CSS, and it also allows you to use any number of Vite plugins now with Eleventy if you want to do that.
Yes.
So I don't know if
Interesting.
you
And
can hear my
so
dog.
interesting. So this means that how does it work exactly? It's like you can just import some JavaScript assets in inside the templates, and Eleventy will detect that and forward them to Vite for bundling, or there is another kind of idea.
Yeah, so if you want to use external JavaScript assets, just as an example, you will need to use the standard pass-through copy to make sure that those JavaScript assets are available in the output,
Yeah.
because Vite runs on your entire output folder and optimizes those. So if those don't exist in your output folder, it won't be able to process those and modify those.
Okay, so the Vite is applied on the pass-through copy of the assets.
Well, Vite runs on your output folder. So in
Yes.
Eleventy, we have this underscore site folder by default
Okay.
that gets generated. And so Vite processes everything that's in that underscore site folder.
Okay.
Hmm.
So you can either have the JS on the copy pass-through, or even generate JS through the templating, and then this will go through Vite and being compiled. Okay.
Yeah, and it makes
But
basically optimizes your entire HTML file to point to those new minimized assets that Vite will process for
okay.
you.
Nice. And so it will minimize CSS and HTML too, or
I don't know if Vite minimizes HTML out of the box, but
I
I
don't
think that
know.
it does do JS and CSS.
I don't know, but at least JS and CSS.
Hmm.
Yeah, and the other
Okay,
nice
so
thing
that's
is that
nice.
Vite does bundle some alternative file types for processing as well. So you can do like SAS bundling as well.
Yeah, well,
Oh
that's
yes,
nice.
true.
Yeah, so there is a lot of existing setups that could be really simplified by using this just a simple setup, because yeah, just
Yeah, it's
Vite is
just
doing the job.
yep, 2 lines of plugin configuration to add to your project, and you should be able to use Vite.
Superb. And this is released and this is already available today.
Yep. You can use there's like a canary release of it out in the wild, and you can just go to our GitHub and it's linked up there.
We need to try this, because today we're bundling nearly manually for our sites those dependencies, or we have a SAS. We just have a SAS transformer in Eleventy, for example, and we have also a transformer for JS, and it gets a bit complex, especially if you have an npm dependencies in your JavaScript and you want to bundle them. Like it kind of uses a little bit of effort to do the transformation. So having Vite available in Eleventy simplifies a lot of this setup. Can imagine.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily think that it makes sense for every project, but I do think that there's a point of complexity where it does really make sense to opt into Vite to bundle your assets, or even just another bundle or two will work.
Yeah, I can understand. Like, I mean, if you don't let's say you create one JavaScript file and you do want to import an npm dependency, for example, that could be helpful. Like, it's a teeny thing, but you need that dependency. That would help, because that's where the complexity starts to go in, is when you want to have that dependency from npm, at least.
Yeah, I mean, and in some projects, I've sort of opted out of that altogether by using a template engine to build a JavaScript file. So
Yes.
you could create an Nginx a file that doesn't include inside of your node modules to bundle it yourself as just like a super cheap way to do that. But
Yeah,
Vite does make it quite a bit nicer.
a little bit, but it's true. You can just include from node module directly. That's actually a cool hack that I haven't thought of. Many cool things coming up.
Yeah. I want to talk a bit about design systems, because coding design systems, and how Eleventy fit in this ecosystem. My first question is, when we talk about coming from the design and implementing the design in a website and so on, what's is there something that you really love with Eleventy in this particular process of implementing a design? What's your favorite feature in Eleventy right now about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that y'all probably have a lot of opinions about how design systems work, and I think that I probably do too. And I think that the biggest thing for me is that just going back to Eleventy allowing you full control over the output of what you're building. There isn't a ton of automation that goes into it. And again, that's a double-edged sword, right? That's good for some things and bad for others because it takes some more manual processing up front, some more manual configuration. But I do think that there is something to be said about having a design system that represents and is like the single source of truth for your components, and trying to move away as much from these sort of back end design tools that may be not as true to the finished product as you'd want it to be. So I think a lot of designs fall down when you try to convert the component to be used responsively. And I don't think anybody's really figured that out in the best way yet. Um, so yeah, getting the code live as quickly as possible and having the component and the design system live on the web, I feel like is the best way to do that. And if you want complete manual control over everything that you put into your project, then Eleventy is a good option for you there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for
and
sure.
I think we have some already examples of design system, or at least component library in the wild, that are using Eleventy. I think North Design System is using Eleventy, and I'm wondering also if Shoelace website is not on Eleventy.
That's a good question.
Oh, you
Yeah.
I
think
don't know.
so?
Hmm.
Could you eventually share your screenshot so maybe we could see that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, it's not always easy, especially when we are not working in with a front end framework like, I don't know, React, Vue, or whatever, right? But we are just sticking to template engines to be able to extract components and make them. It was one of the most difficult tasks I had when I started to think design system in a static site generation, how to reuse component and to rebuild component and so on. Do you have any kind of advice? How do you proceed when you are working on extracting components from the process of generating your website to reuse them after that?
I mean, that's a good question. I feel like the design systems that I build, I try to build them as simple as possible up front. And so that a lot of times that means not creating components until I need them to be reusable. And so that might be that might mean that your design system lives as just a single page on your site that has all of your reusable components in a big giant list, just so that you don't have to overcomplicate the architecture behind it. Um, and having your design system live alongside your website, I feel like it can be a great benefit as well. Having those in the same repository even can be great. And so there has been some community work around this as well. I think that there has been some Storybook plugins that have come in from folks to work with Eleventy and Storybook. I haven't used those myself, so it'd be hard to know. But I did work on, before moving to Eleventy full time, I did work on Netlify.com, and that's built entirely with Eleventy's Vue plugin. So it allows you to use Vue components in Eleventy without any client side Vue bundles happening. There's no Vue on the client. It's just exclusively Vue server generated. Um, so yeah, you get the same benefits from components that you would want in a medium to large scale project, but without any of the sort of extra cruft that comes along with um, a client-side rendered component library.
Yeah, we need to talk about that. But meanwhile, yeah, I was saying that this is one design system that is made, North Health, that is made with Eleventy.
Yeah, this one is super impressive.
It is super impressive. It's clearly one of the best design system out there. If I go into, we have the colors, obviously. So all this is generated through Eleventy, and even the components here, like, there we go. We can feel how this can be built with Eleventy, and through the generation of the different templates, and the inclusion of code, and so it's pretty neat. It's a very, very nice result here. And I looked at Shoelace, but Shoelace is not made with Eleventy, or at least I can't see markers of it in the code. So I don't think it uses Eleventy.
Yeah, I couldn't find any mention of it on Twitter either. So usually when folks do it, they tweet it out, and then I retweet it immediately.
And so that's, and this design system is actually web components. So again, going back to our discussion, I think it fits very well that the web component story, and we can see how easy it is to actually plug web components inside an Eleventy template just by actually pushing HTML. As simple as that. But you talked about Vue, and I'm interested in how you integrated Vue in Eleventy, because I think the Vue model, and that's probably why you build this, is the SFC, which I guess this is what you use. I haven't tried your implementation. But the SFC is a nice format. Like, you have the template and the style, plus potentially some JavaScript or some logic in the mounting phase that are very nice. And so I can see that if you want to build something using components, or using a component-driven development, I can see this being very very nice. And especially if there is all generated on the back end, so on the then everything is static and there is no JS going out. I'd be curious about how this works, because and how we can use it tomorrow if we want. I mean, me or anybody looking at the video.
Yeah, I wonder what the best way is to share a link. So this plugin is, I don't think it's quite 1.0, and the 1.0 will be Vue 3. I think the version that you can install right now is Vue 2. but all the work for Vue 3 is done. It just needs to be published.
Okay.
So yeah, this is all single file components. So it brings sort of single file components from Vue straight into a first class Eleventy template. So you can have a .vue single file component as a page template, or you can use a .vue component in your includes and then import it into another page.
Okay.
So yeah, it really brings the single file components as a first class thing in Eleventy, which is super nice.
Uh-huh. So it's a new template engine that you added, or because this
Yep.
is a plugin? I didn't know we could add template engines through plugins. This is new.
Yes, that is a new thing that just shipped with 1.0.
Okay.
So yeah, and a
So
lot of the work that went into this Vue plugin was sort of drove that that extension API that we added.
Okay. No, that's super cool. So you can really use Vue as a first-class citizen in Eleventy. It makes Eleventy 12T basically.
Yeah. I mean, we did retire one, I think, with 1.0, so maybe it's still at 11.
You're cheating. Okay.
If you do go out to so just before I move on to the next thing about the extension API, I would say that this Vue plugin is really quite good because it has full like incremental build support built into it, and there's a lot of work that went into this plugin because Netlify.com is a pretty large site, and so the development of this plugin was sort of went along with Netlify.com, and it worked on Netlify.com for almost 2 years or a little over 2 years, and so this Vue component is very robust and very good. So I would, yeah, if you're interested, definitely recommend checking it out.
So this page I'm on, the blog is with Eleventy and with the Vue plugin.
Yep, exactly.
That's impressive. It means that
Nice
we could imagine that we can do the same thing using other front-end frameworks like Svelte or React or whatever we want if we have this ability of adding templates in extensions.
Yeah, exactly. So there is community plugins right now for Svelte that take a very similar approach to this. And those are linked up on npm. If you just do like Eleventy, a search for Eleventy Svelte, you should be fine. I think there's 2 of them.
It brings Eleventy in the give or take the same area of that than Astro or those new island oriented generators. What's your opinion about it and this approach in static site generation?
Yeah, so I would say that this Eleventy plugin and this Svelte plugin that you're probably looking at right now is a little bit different from the Astro Islands architecture style stuff. So the thing that Astro does differently is that it bundles all of your client-side JavaScript for you and lets you hydrate your components on the page in different ways. The Vue plugin that I linked to is just strictly server-side processing. There's no client-side bundling that goes into it. And so depending on what you want to do, these things will work for different use cases. So just as an example, this Vue plugin that we use for Netlify.com, the Vue Eleventy plugin, that actually generates web components on the front end. And so we aren't mixing and matching Vue, or we aren't reusing Vue on the front end. We're using Vue to generate the server-side code and then using web components on the client. And so it allows us to mix and match the frameworks in different ways that I feel like it again allows you more control over the bundles that get generated on your for client processing, and allows you more control over the performance of the site. But yeah, I mean, if you want to use Islands architecture in Eleventy specifically, there is another plugin that Ben Holmes has worked on called Slinkity.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard of that one, but it takes a very similar approach to Astro and brings that that same idea to the Eleventy world.
I'm not sure how to write it anymore. I know
Slinkity,
this.
SLAN.
SLINKITY.
Yeah. AI. We will have Ben on the stage in a few weeks, to talk about Slinkity and how does it work and so on. Yeah, it's really cool. That's really cool. Yeah. That's
fantastic.
Yeah, it's
so a lot going on, and so it makes going back to design system. It's actually I like to offer alternatives, even though Backlight will provide the ability to build design system documentation sites in different techniques and with Svelte and Vue and React and whatever. But I think Eleventy is also an option. You can build your design system in Eleventy and have showcase your Svelte components and Vue components as well. The only caveat maybe is if you want to have more client side components to showcase some of the dynamic capabilities, then you don't want to render them fully server side, but also keep the client side alive. But those are interesting options.
Yeah, and I really love the approach of sort of trying to make as much into web components as possible, because to me, really, that's the lightest client-side interaction behavior model that you can have, and it's also the most portable, because it's going to work in a bunch of different. You can have a web component that works in a bunch of different server-side frameworks, and so yeah, I'm really kind of all in on web components at this point. But some other folks might want something else, and that's why we have the whole ecosystem of things. It's not just me building what I want to do. It's everyone's building and contributing back. So that's great.
Yeah, for sure.
Great stuff.
You wanted to talk a bit about the extension plugin API or something like this, something like that?
Oh yeah. So if you go to the Eleventy documentation, there's, and scroll down to like the template languages. Yep. So if you just click that, I don't know, you could actually click like the Eleventy at the top, and it will take you right to the docs.
That's so smart. I love
don't know that, but if you scroll down on the left, it's yep, keep going.
Keep going.
Oh no.
No.
Yep, sorry. And template languages there at the bottom. There's a custom one.
There, the custom one.
Yeah, it's under that header. Custom. Yeah, right there.
Perfect.
And so this is the API you can use to add whatever template language you want to Eleventy, and it allows you to sort of take over a file extension with whatever code that you want to use to process that.
Cloud. How do you spell this?
I mean, that's not spelled correctly on purpose. But yeah, that's just an example of using Eleventy to take over any file extension that you want.
And this is new in V1, yes. This is very powerful.
Yeah, and so there's a very small example of how to use Eleventy to process SAS even.
SAS, yes.
Yeah. So it processes files that are directly in the source folder. Not like we mentioned before, like Vite is doing, and is occurring only on the _site folder. In this case, the plugin and the extension are applied directly to the source files. That's it.
Yep, correct. Yep, it goes directly to your output folder as CSS at this point.
Yeah, that's really nice. Yeah. How did come the idea of having a plugin API for Eleventy? Because plugin is live, definitely, in terms of project. If you want your project and your open source project really being wide adopt, I'm very convinced that plugins is the best way to help people to just be empowered in your tool, because you just give them the ability to develop their own tools for their very own needs. So, how did you came with this plugin idea at first?
Yeah, I mean, it was mostly just having to do with how much time I had to work on the project. And so, I mean, within the last month, Netlify is now paying me to work on Eleventy full time, which is a completely separate discussion, and it's awesome, and I'm super excited about it. But for the other like 4+ years of Eleventy's existence, it was a side project for me,
Mm.
and so I didn't have a ton of time to put into it. I wasn't working on it 40 hours a week. I was working on it like 5 to 10 hours a week. I have kids. I have a family. Like I'm not gonna like
Yes.
spend a ton of time to work on this. And so the easiest way for me to make my tool popular and useful for folks to use is to allow them to modify it in some way. And so I don't need control of everything in Eleventy. So let me provide the tools and the hooks for folks to build things that they can contribute to the ecosystem. And so I want to make it as extensible as possible, just so I don't have a ton of code that I need to maintain. And that other folks can contribute back and help with what they want to build. Because it's not just I'm not building sites using tools that I don't want to gatekeep basically everything that goes into Eleventy. I want um, anyone to be able to contribute how they want to build sites back to the project. So um, yeah, I mean, I want Eleventy to last for a long time too, and I feel like a lot of these tools turn over quickly,
Mm.
and so I think it'd be really great if an Eleventy project can sort of stay an Eleventy project, but completely change sort of the internals of how it works and um, completely change the third-party tools and integrations that you use. And so, if you can use a Eleventy for two separate projects, like a personal project or a work project that use completely different tool sets, I think that's kind of cool. Like you can reuse a lot of that knowledge in
Yeah.
two completely different projects, but you get a lot of the same tool and a lot of the same things that you've learned. You get to reuse those for free. So
Yeah, and as you said, there is a lot of turnover in terms of technologies, and maybe you want to mix and match things, and so you could very well, if you want to try out Svelte and do one or two things in your site in Svelte, why not? It gives you how best to evaluate a technology than to actually try it out. So this ability to select the tech you want and maybe not buying 100% actually on the site it is actually quite nice. And we have done the sites in webcomponents.dev. The site is mostly non-churk. I mean, it's very simple, but at least it is still the case, 2 years down the line, we have no rush into changing massively the site. And if tomorrow we want to add Vue into it or Svelte, it seems like we just can. So it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's great.
And yeah, and actually one of the cool thing about Eleventy, and I'm obviously stating the obvious for the people that know Eleventy, but it's the cascade of the data, and this data cascade is stays always the same, like from what I understand from those plugins. So you keep having that data cascade and be able to render them into different ways.
Yeah, and that was an idea that was contributed from the community. So one of the original early adopters of Eleventy came up with the idea for the data cascade, and I mean I immediately recognized it as an amazingly powerful thing to both configure your templates and provide data to your templates. So yeah, I think the data cascade is super powerful, and I'm really kind of blown away that more tools haven't stolen the idea, to be honest.
That's a
Yeah,
great mark of success.
now that I know it, it's kind of it's that I want it everywhere. I do static site generation because just the way you can inherit from data and cascade it through the different layers. It works very well with static site generation for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to be able to have one data file that propagates a bunch of data and configuration to an entire folder or subfolders or whatever you want to do. So yeah, I think it's an incredibly powerful feature for sure.
Yeah. I guess we're running a bit out of time, and I don't know if you have any pics that you want to show us or to talk with us about it and about the future of the Eleventy, and how do you see it in the next few months?
Yeah, I mean, there's an entire wall full of sticky notes that I have right here with ideas of things that I want to work on next. And yeah, I think that Eleventy will start to get more into probably two different spaces. So I think one thing that's probably underrepresented on our project right now is our official starters. So we have a ton of plugins and ecosystem around the Eleventy world, and there's not very much that's out of the box. So we want to provide not just a completely baseline experience, but we want to also give people a little bit of a jump if they want some more out of the box functionality from Eleventy. So maybe a little bit of a head start instead of trying to do everything from scratch. And I mean, I realize that does go against a little bit of the build everything from scratch nature of Eleventy, but really it's just kind of a shortcut. It's optional. You don't have to you won't have to use the starter kit or whatever if you don't want to. So Eleventy will continue to maintain the complete control and build from scratch attitude that we've had from the beginning. And I think that you will start to see Eleventy get more into asset processing. So we had kind of talked about Vite integration, and Vite is a great way to process your assets, your JavaScript and your CSS. But I think you'll start to see a first-class plugin for Eleventy roll out here in the next couple of months. So, we want a better story around hydration and components and all of that stuff as well.
So exciting! A lot of stuff coming up.
Yep, it's I'm really pumped up about it.
So you said, because I missed that part, but you said now you're full time on Eleventy.
Yes, so I'm in my 5th week of completely full time, 40 hours a week, Eleventy work sponsored by Netlify. So
super, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm still so excited about it. It's actually really hard to stop working at 40 hours a week now. But yeah.
To be perfectly
I can
honest,
understand that.
Yeah, when I saw your short video when you were announcing it, I was just woohoo, yeah, because you deserve it, and those perfect tools deserve that kind of support.
I missed that video, so we need to have the link in the description below.
Yeah, I will put the link for sure.
Yeah. I was just so excited when that happened. I'm still like really pumped up about all the things that it's going to unlock for the project moving forward too.
I am sure.
Well, that's great.
Super.
Yeah, thank you very much for being with us today. It was really cool to have you for this conversation. What I keep in mind is that keep things simple, use web components, and and make things extendable and configurable. This is the best way to help people and empower them in their very own daily basis tools. So yeah, thank you very much for that.
Yeah, it's been a real pleasure, and thank you for having me on. I had a lot of fun.
It was really cool.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us. Yeah. So, George, last word for today.
Nothing. It was a pleasure, Zach, to have you, and I hope we can have you again with some of the new release. Now that you are full time, this is like in 3 weeks. Now we have a new release. No.
Yeah, exactly. I'd be happy to come back on for sure.
We'd be happy to see that, and because we need to upgrade our sites. Huh?
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh yeah, definitely. I've got a lot of work to do with that.
No, not very much work. It's very easy.
No, but he has a new website coming up on the blog post. One of the big blog posts that we have, all the ways to make web components. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah,
Zach.
we could.
No,
we could
yeah, link me up.
Yeah,
but
we could show
this page. Let me show this up.
Yeah.
I don't know if we have time, but this is really worthwhile.
We could take it.
This page is made entirely from Eleventy, of course, because it's on webcomponent.dev. I go to the blog. So we update this page quite regularly. This last update is from February this year. And we actually make now 61 variants of this little component in web component. And
wow, that is a lot.
This is made in all those variants and frameworks and fast and lit and svelte and solid and Vue and React, and you have all of them. And on every one you can see how it's coded and how it's made. And then you have even charts about the bundle size of every component in the different frameworks.
That is super cool.
And so this is 100% Eleventy. Like we build everything, we build, measure everything through script that generates the data, and then this is pushed into the data management of Eleventy that then generate this page completely automatically.
Yeah, so, that is awesome.
Yeah, it's a big page. It's a big project. It's like just this page is a full-on project, but the result is entirely static thanks to Eleventy.
Yeah.
And so Mads is actually working on a revamp of this page because it's been like this for maybe 18 months now. And so we want to make a new, fresh update. So that's why he was talking about this whole work.
Yeah, this is a lot of work, but yeah, it's definitely cool to maintain those different versions and to take care and take advantage of the full power of Eleventy to just generate the full flow of data and hydrate everything, and boom, we just have a big result of every kind of components. This is so cool and so awesome. The idea is to extract it from the actual blog of webcomponents.dev to make it a single standalone website in an open source version, so everyone could contribute to it and to add new components and so on. So yeah, big project incoming. So, but a lot of fun with it. That's been nice.
Yeah, I love that idea. That's a really good idea.
Thank you.
Now that is announced publicly, he has more pressure.
Yeah, I couldn't step back now.
You promised.
Yeah, I did. Awesome.
Okay, super. Thank you again, Zach. It was a pleasure. It was a pleasure to finally talk to you, and hopefully very soon again.
Yeah, let's do it again for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you again, and see you next week, folks, for a next episode. Bye bye, everyone.
See you next week. Bye bye.